What's going on, everyone? Scott here. Welcome back to the channel. So the college football playoff bracket is here. The games start on December 19th and 20th with the first round, then continue with the quarterfinal games on New Year's Eve and New Year's Day before we move to the semifinals on January 8th and 9th, and then the national championship on January 19th. But we're just here. This is going to be a fairly quick-ish video. Just kind of want to go through where we're at kind of with each game, who I think, and just kind of like we're here in March Madness, filling out our bracket, I guess, if you will, who we think will be the national champion at the end of this here in the middle of January. But before we do jump in, if you could just hit that like and subscribe button down there. We'll have more college football content on the channel. If you're, obviously, if you can tell, around here, we're a Michigan State centered channel for the most part. So all Michigan State football news you can find here on the channel, but we try to talk about college football as a whole as well. So just make sure to subscribe so you don't miss a video. So just make sure you hit that like and subscribe button down there so you don't miss a video. But we'll start up at the top. We have James Madison, the number 12 seed, playing the 5th seed Oregon. That is on December 20th at 7:30. So that is the Saturday night game. But in this one, I mean, Oregon, obviously they're the higher seed. James Madison, obviously, they've had a really good year overall. Oregon in this one favored by 21.5 for a reason at Austin Stadium in Eugene. I think Oregon wins this. That 21.5. I think that's fairly accurate. I think James Madison will put up a fight, first quarter and a half or so, but I think Oregon kind of gets it rolling, officially more in second half of the second quarter and into the second half, and win this one here to advance to the Capital One Orange Bowl against Texas Tech. Move down, obviously Texas Tech, as we said, the 4 seed, they have the bye to the second round. Then the next game is the Friday night game, and that is number 9 seeded Alabama and the number 8 seed Oklahoma. That is played on Friday at 8 o'clock. Currently, Alabama favored by 1.5. And that's kind of where I lean in this one. Now, I am saying this with a very, very big kind of caveat, and I don't even want to say warning, but I am recording this about a week before, a little more than a week before before this college football playoff kicks off. Now, everything kind of just came out with everything at the school down the road with Sean Moore, moving on from him at head coach, and all of that stuff. And obviously, Kalen DeBoer, with Alabama's head coach, has been a name that has been linked to that school down the road for quite a while. So, I don't know if something would happen before this game, if he did want that job, accepted that job, and moved on. That would definitely kind of throw a wrinkle in all of this, in my opinion. Obviously, who knows? Maybe anything wouldn't happen until their season is over, whether that's on Friday night or it's on December or January 19th after the national championship. Who knows? But that would definitely kind of change things. But if not, if everything is how it is, I think Alabama goes in and wins this game, gets revenge from Oklahoma coming in to Alabama, Tuscaloosa earlier this year and getting that win. So I got Alabama moving on to the Rose Bowl against the number 1 seed, Indiana. As we said, Indiana has the 1 seed and has a bye till New Year's Day at the Rose Bowl. And then keep on moving down. The 11th seed, Tulane, against the 6th seed, Ole Miss. Now, obviously, both programs have had head coaches move on this offseason, but Ole Miss still obviously has more talent in this one. This is the Saturday 3:30 game. Ole Miss favored by 17.5 in this one so far. That's probably about right. Summerall actually is still there for Tulane, so I could see them hanging in and fighting. So I like maybe Tulane to cover that 17.5, but I still like Ole Miss to win this one and advance to the Sugar Bowl, the All-State Sugar Bowl against the 3 seed Georgia. So Georgia has the 3 seed advancing to New Year's Day, the late game, as the 3 seed there in the All-State Sugar Bowl. And then the last first round game, 10th seeded Miami, which was the last technical team to kind of get in, against going to Texas A&M. That's the Saturday 12 o'clock game. Texas A&M currently favored by 3.5, and yeah, I like Texas A&M in this one. Miami obviously kind of snuck in, kind of there at the end, but I think Texas A&M too much. They've been highly ranked all year. Obviously, Miami has been up there as well, but I'm just not really one to trust in Carson Beck personally, but that's just me. That this one I think is this one and the Alabama Oklahoma are obviously the two biggest toss ups as they should be. They're the two middle games, but I still like Texas A&M to win, and I like them to cover that 3.5 as well. And they will move on to the Goodyear Cotton Bowl Classic to play the 2 seed Ohio State Buckeyes. Obviously, Ohio State losing that Big Ten championship game to the number 1 seeded Indiana, should I say. And they will move on to New Year's Eve at 7:30 in the Goodyear Cotton Bowl Classic. So we'll just move it up to the top now in the Capital One Orange Bowl. So this is the 4 seeded Texas against number 5, Texas Tech, should I say, and the number 5 seed Oregon. This will be played on New Year's Day at 12 o'clock. Now, this one I think is a tough one. And this one is, I think, one that Oregon can benefit from having been a little more fresh. Obviously, this will be, about a month around that for Texas Tech from their last game. Oregon will have just came off playing a playoff game just about less than 2 weeks prior. So I got Oregon in this one. Moving on to the Chick-fil-A Peach Bowl. And then at the Rose Bowl, you got the number 1 seed Indiana Hoosiers playing the number 9 seeded Alabama. Now, this is kind of the rust versus rest, conversation as we kind of just talked about with the Orange Bowl as well and Texas Tech. I think Indiana, as much as me personally, obviously I know it is an incredible story. If you've watched this channel at all, I'm not really too fond of Kurt Signetti, but you have to give him credit for everything that he's done. But in this one, I will have Indiana moving on to the Chick-fil-A Peach Bowl. And then the All-State Sugar Bowl, 3-seeded Georgia against 6-seeded Ole Miss. I got Georgia. I just think too good defensively overall. This one on New Year's Day at 8 o'clock, and I think just too much. This is going to be a defensive game, and I think Georgia is just too much in this one for Ole Miss to overcome. And then the last game of the second round here, quarterfinals, if you will, the Goodyear Cotton Bowl Classic, 2-seeded Ohio State versus Texas A&M, and I got Ohio State. And I got Ohio State kind of big in this one. This is the New Year's Eve game, 7:30. I got Ohio State chomping at the bit to get a rematch with Georgia from a couple seasons ago in the playoffs. I got them winning this one pretty handily over Texas A&M. Move up, we are at the semifinals. The Chick-fil-A Peach Bowl. I have Oregon against Indiana. Big Ten matchup. Now, obviously, this is a matchup earlier this year when Indiana went into Oregon and got a win earlier this year. And you go take a look at that game. That was a very tight game for the most part. It was a 32-20 Indiana win. Now, Indiana did a good job in that game against Oregon on the ground. Their top rusher had only 59 yards. Dante Moore only had 186 yards through the air. So expect a kind of similar, tough, tight game. And in this one, I do have Indiana continuing to move on as the 1 seed and moving into the national championship game, still undefeated overall. And then the Fiesta Bowl, number 2 seeded Ohio State, number 3 seed Georgia. Now, in this one, Ohio State obviously chomping at the bit to get revenge from that college football playoff a couple years ago. And then, Georgia, too, looking to get back to the national championship game. Now, in this one, I think this has the potential. I think this might be the best game of the playoff, maybe until the championship game for sure. But I think this matchup could be the best matchup of the playoffs. But in this one, Ohio State wants that revenge. I don't think they get it, though. I think Georgia makes it back to the national championship game, setting up number 1 seeded Indiana versus number 3 seed, the Georgia Bulldogs. And in this one, I think the Indiana Hoosiers, perfect season, storybook season, if you will, comes that short. And I think the Georgia Bulldogs get back on top of the college football world and win a national championship. So that's that. After all of this, I got the number 3 seed Georgia Bulldogs going all the way to win the national championship at the end of this. But anyway, that'll do it for this one. Thank you all so much for watching. We'll see you in the next one. Peace out.